Hey! Well, how's it going? Welcome to the Three Addict Network. I'm merrymitch, and I'll be your host for the next 2 hours. Last time around, we had the chance to discover why Nick Wilde was wearing a suit that looked like himself, and fighting jeans and leather and polyester. We discovered many things within that their story, and figured out the origins of Foxman. Welcome everybody. I hope you're doing well, and I hope that this stream meets you in some good spirits. Oh, you thought? Oh man, I know I'm pretty convincing, right? In that their video. You'd think it was actually me. Sorry you ended up decepted, there, Bebo, but, I will, you know what, I'll remedy it now, with a little hydration time. It's time for hydration! This has been the water time, the time in which I forgot that one had background effects. The spooky what do you call those things again? Music box. Yeah, the spooky music box sound effect was unexpected, to say the least. Today I have loaded up a number of stories. They each seem pretty darn cool. One of them looks to be kind of a situation like Squidward when he ended up going through all those paintings. Or kind of a Mario 64 situation where the peeps in the story are jumping into paintings. We have one that looks to be the tale of... Let's see. It says, a rollicking short adventure set in 1853 in the world of the League of Seven fantasy series for middle grade readers. Oh, excellent. By acclaimed author Alan Gratz. Grab your Aether pistol and your favorite stovepipe hat and join Dalton Dent as he tracks down the foul creature known as Mose. And that's called Hero of the 5 Points. We also have Bridge of Snow, which seems... And hey, let me bring you on over here. Oh, well, hey there, Nick. I must say I'd forgotten that you were here. we are gonna need you to mosey on. Here. Check this out. All right, ready? Hey. Oh, wait. Hey. Oh, he's juking me. Hang on. I'm gonna get him. There we go. Nailed it. Alright, we are done with his story, unfortunately, so alas, he must go. I know. We will miss him. He shall be missed. This one seems interesting. It is Bridge of Snow by Mary Rutkoski. It says, ignore the stirrings of war. Let the carriage to the royal ball wait. There is a story to be told of a starless night, a mother and her sick son, and a mortal who falls in love with the snow god and will do anything to have her. Read Bridge of Snow, which is set in the world of Rutkoski's newest novel, The Winter's Curse. This short story was acquired and edited for Tor.com by Mac Kids editor Janine O'Malley. Well, thank you. This one seems kind of cool. It's got like another icy theme, and you know, we are in the midst of winter, so I'm thinking this might be the one to check out. Yeah, what? This mortal is a sniper monkey. You guys have seen that, right? If you haven't, I need you to.
Yes.
Yeah, and look at this.
I'm a simp. Sniper monkey.
It's good stuff. And I'll send it in the chat too, just in case you need it. I guess not. Why is that word like banned now? And is that actually a thing? Because I keep hearing that, but I don't know the actual context. Yeah, why is that word banned on Twitch? I apologize, the video said it. It wasn't me. But why has it been banned? Should it continue to be? The baseline as to why it has been banned is basically that it is a rather unnecessary insult regarding something that only serves to help someone. But the true reason is way deeper than that. Consider this. You're a man who regularly shows up to a streamer's feed. You regularly donate since you really like this streamer. And you like to show your support in the comment section. Every time your tag pops up on the stream, someone chimes in with that word. You feel degraded, unappreciated, and generally insulted. This happens every single time you show up to a stream for weeks. Are you going to continue to go as regularly as you did before, if at all? Okay. I guess I do understand that, but that means it is banned in the context of insulting people, right? So if you use it just as a joke and you're not referring to anyone in particular with it, then that's fine. Like if I say that word but I'm actually referring to sniper monkey, then that's fine, right? I don't know. We'll try to avoid the word, but you know, if any sniper monkeys come up in the tail, I won't be able to help myself. So yeah, this one seems short as well, so we'll start with this one. Bridge of Snow. Alright, we need some snowy ambiance. Oh man, this new one actually looks really good, but I can't play it because it's not out yet from Tabletop Audio. We'll just look up winter. Let's see, we have Winter Woods, Frozen Wastes. Frozen Wastes might be the one to go, because I know, I have a feeling Winter Woods is gonna have some sort of like dark ambiance to it. Oh, here it comes. Actually, it's not as dark as I thought it would be. This is pretty nice. We'll go with this. This is some solid ambiance for our tale today. Alright, I'm going to sip some water. As for how I'm doing, my voice seems to be in good order. I've had some clogging in my throat due to some mucus buildup and gunk, but overall I'm feeling pretty good. I went for a run yesterday, and thankfully it wasn't as cold as the last time I went, because at the end of it I did still feel like I was dying because of the mucus, but I recovered a lot quicker. So, hey, let's go. Oh, also, thank you guys again for the love on the new highlights reel. I hope you enjoy it. Yeah, just thanks so much for the support. I, put a lot of work into those, and boy, does it bring me a lot of joy to know that the people I made it for really love it. So, thank you guys for the feedback and just for enjoying it. Hope you'll look forward to the next one, as I know I am. And if you have enjoyed those, certainly do your best to keep on clipping things from the channel throughout today, because that really does help out a lot in the editing process. What do you mean, Bebo? Can't wait to bamboozle myself again. What do you, what do you mean? I gotta say, I think my favorite part of that edit is either King Ghikara and Remy coming down out of nowhere in the middle of the gnome fight, or gargoyle moment, or the Gordon Ramsay portion where Pharaoh Conch is Gordon Ramsay facing off against the Trapper. That part turned out to be epic, and I came across that meme just by chance, like on a Discord server I'm a part of. Oh, that's right. You need to redeem it every time at that part. One of these times he's gonna do it. Yeah. Gargoyle moment. Well, all right. Enough talk of this gargoyle moment. We must read a story now. The burping kid at the end, smashing his head. That one does kill me. I don't know if you haven't seen the full thing of it. Well, let me show you. Let me see, where is it? Where'd it be? Here it is.
It might have the Star Wars Lego set Death Star, but can he chug a sparkling water and not burp? Oh my gosh.
Why would you do this?
What do I do?
Just, what do I do? I mean, honestly, in that... hello? Voice? Hello? Voice? Whoa. Excuse me. I'm sorry. My voice just decided to... just decided to go away for a second there. Oh, gosh. Oh, for real, Kingy. He's just thinking to himself like, oh, chugging a sparkling water? I can do that. Little did he know. Little did he know. Apologies for the unsavory throat clearing noises. Again, I've had just kind of moments so far this morning where my voice just swoops away from me. But then the rest of the time it's like completely normal and fine. I don't know. Again, thankfully it seems I recover from it quickly. But all right, let's pray that it holds up throughout this here story of snow. So guys, get comfy, get cozy, and get ready for this here afternoon story. I'm merrymitch, and this is Bridge of Snow by Rutkoski. The boy was sick. It wasn't that so much that worried his mother. He was often sick, and she had grown used to that fever-dazzled quality to his eyes. Sometimes she secretly enjoyed his illness. Once the fever had broken, and the worry was past. She got to keep him all to herself. His tutors were sent away. His limbs, heavy with sleepiness, seemed ironically healthier than usual. Solid, with a good weight. He was a spindly creature, tall for his age, large-eyed, bony. She thought he would grow up handsome. His father disagreed. The disagreement was matter of fact, even fond. An excuse for him to praise the boy's bookish ways. Not handsome, her husband would say when they were alone in her room and the fire burned low. Clever. Can he not be both? Gods, I hope not. One of those is enough. She sighed, remembering it. She sat by her son's bedside, careful not to crease her gown. She stretched an arm across a pillow, and the boy, turning a page, nestled into her. He didn't look up from his book. His shoulders were rigid, his face tight. Whatever simmered in him wasn't fever. She stroked his dark hair. It's almost time. The carriage is waiting. A little longer. Her arm ached from the awkward position and the boy's weight. She shifted. "Don't go," he said. "Aaron, I must." He jerked away. "Why? Just because Anara wants you to? All she wants is to gobble up the prince. She's a spider." "I'm not sure spiders gobble." He slammed his book shut. "A fox, then. I mean, sneaky fox." "This ball is important to your sister. It's important that your father and I attend it with her. And Nurse will take good care of you while we're gone." Yet she didn't like to leave Aaron. It was his fury grasped, his fury, my bad. It was his fury grasped tight and trembling that made her reluctant, not the sickness, which had almost run its course. "What did your sister do?" He rolled over and buried his face in a pillow. "Nothing. Nothing." "If you tell me, I will tell you something." He shifted so that one gray eye peered at her over the pillow's snowy slopes. "What kind of something?" Something? Oh man. I can't let every stretch be gargoyle moment time. Right? I'm okay with at least like one gargoyle moment per stream, but I feel like 250 points might not be enough for the gargoyle moment. Do you have anything else in mind? I can do a back bend, I can do kicks, I can do a little roll, I can do a handstand, I can do some jumps, like a tuck jump or a pike jump. I can do, alright, my choice. Okay. We'll need some more appropriate music, though. Let's get... play some Everhood music. I mean, this one's a classic. Oh yeah. Stretch time, guys. Alright. I say we do a handstand and a roll. Alright. Oh. Dude, I know, right? The soundtrack is kind of the bomb. I won't be able to hear it while I stand up, but yeah. Here we go. Alright, first, handstand time. Next up is the roll. Yeah. I'll need to angle camera down. Oh yeah. Oh, down here. Yeah, let's try it again. Yes. Alright, let's see. Well, that was fun. Thank you for the stretch break. That was refreshing. And God, dude, this song, man. I honestly wish we could just have that going during the reading, but alas, it would not be appropriate to the track or to the story. Give song. I can send you the link. That one was At the Racetrack. I think it's song 14 on the OST. Yeah, I got you, Bebo. And that's the one that's at the end of the highlight reel. I'm most likely gonna keep that track as the the outro theme, essentially. Hey, anytime, Bebo. Anytime. All right. Thank you for the stretch break. Now, back to the story. He looked at her fully now.
A secret? And a story?
Little trickster. You hope to make me forget the ball with tale-telling? What would the royal family think if I am not there? You don't need a story. You have your book. But then she looked more carefully at what he'd been reading, and frowned. Out with it, she said more sternly than she had intended. What did Anared do?
She said she was there when I was born.
Yes? Her daughter was a full 10 years older than him. A young woman now.
She said
Aaron whispered.
that I was born in the year of death. That you waited for months to name me so that my name day would be in a different god's year.
Well, she fiddled with an emerald earring. Yes, all parents did the same that year. Except, perhaps, she supposed, for a few who thought that being born under death's sign would make their children fit for war one day. But who, she shuddered, would want that? How silly to fret over this, Aaron. It's the name that matters, not the birth. Yet he had gone nameless for 2 full seasons. He had been born in the peak of death's sign. She looked away from the boy's pale face.
Anarez said I was born a skeleton.
I don't even know how to look this thing up. Man. Oh, here it is.
Schnappi, schnapp! Oh, pappalapapp! Schnie, schnapp, schnappi! Schnappi, schnappi, schnapp, Beine ab! Oh, schnapp, Köpfe ab! Schnibbelibapp, schnibbelapp!
That's how he was born. That was that's Little Frost, man. Her gaze snapped back. What?
She said I came out all bones. My knuckles looked like pearls.
Now it was she who had to hide her anger.
Enara said you prayed to the gods. Oh. Enara said you prayed to the gods to give me flesh.
He continued.
And they did, but not enough. That's why I'm so skinny.
Sweetest child, that's not true.
I know it's not true.
But Aaron's gray eyes were shiny with fear. And something in him saw that she had seen this. That lurking anger from before suddenly barreled through his fear, shoved it aside.
I hate her.
You don't mean that.
Yes,
He said.
I do.
Shh, 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 shh. Your throat's raw already from the fever. Do you want to lose your voice? He gulped. He choked on the sucked-in air. Tears spilled down his cheeks.
I hate her. I hate her.
He said hoarsely. She wasn't feeling kindly toward her firstborn either. To tell a child such frightening nonsense. Let the carriage wait. You shall have your story as well as your secret. Tears made his lashes spiky, his eyes luminous.
Both?
He had stopped crying.
I like that.
What could you possibly like about a Valorian book?
Valorians are interesting. They're different.
Indeed they are. It stirred a dread in her, simply to see the printed language stamped on the pages. She had never been to Valoria, but everyone knew what people from that country were like. Irreligious, brutish, bloody-minded. Why, even the women took up arms. She could not imagine it. And there had been rumors. She set aside the book. A story, then. Aaron was calm now. He lifted a hand to touch the back of hers in thanks, then curled his fingers into hers. She cherished that little warmth. It nested in her palm like a bird.
Tell me how the stars were made.
He said, You are too young for that tale. He pulled her hands from hers.
I've had 8 name days.
Yes, exactly.
I know the story already, Amma. I just want to hear it in your voice.
When she hesitated, he said,
Did you know that Valorians say the stars are sparks shot from the hooves of galloping war horses?
The words made her own heart race. Yet her country had no reason to fear Valoria. A mountain range stood between Erin and Valoria. Eran and Valoria. The rest of Iran was surrounded by water, and the Irani ruled the seas. We are safe, she thought.
I hear that Valorians eat gold.
The boy said. No, of course not. But did they? She wasn't sure to what lengths the barbarism went. Eating gold seemed perfectly benign compared to the massacre in the Southern Isles. The Valorians had waded in blood. She'd heard. Those they didn't kill, they enslaved. She wondered how much Aaron knew about the wars beyond Iran's borders. Now, you will be quiet, she said, and you will listen. No interruptions. He snuggled down. Easy now.
All right.
There was a young man, goatherd, a goatherd, who lived in the mountains. The reason I paused there was because I thought this was goatherd, and I thought that might be a name. Goatherd. I'm trying to decide whether or not that's a good name or not. Like, would you be remiss if your parents named you Goatherd? Because, I mean, it's not the worst name, right? Goatherd. And people could call you the goat. Huh? It's pretty good. A goatherd who lived in the mountains. Oh, a goatherd who lived in the mountains. His days were filled with bells and the scattering sound of goat hooves on loose rock. Nights were darker than they are now, starless, lightless, save for the moon that hung like a jewel on the chilled black silk of the sky. He was alone. His heart was still. He remembered each god in his prayers. He hadn't always been alone. The days grew shorter, colder. Heavy gray clouds tore themselves into shreds on the mountain tops. Had he left behind the people he loved? Or had they left him? No one knows. But he remembered them in the fading warmth of autumn. He heard voices ringing in the first frozen wind of winter. He told himself they were goat spells. Maybe they were. She looked at her boy. He knew her weakness for storytelling, and it was, after all, only a story. Still, she wished he had chosen a happier one.
Go on,
he said. He was poor. His shoes were thin, but he was hardier than he looked, and he had a gift. In the icy pink mornings, he would select a charred stick from the dead fire. He would go outside where the light was best. Sometimes he used the wall of his hut. He had no paper. And sometimes he used a flat stretch of rock in the cliff, letting its texture give dimension to his charcoal images. He drew. Fingers black, he sketched his memories. He shaded the lost faces. He rubbed a line with his smallest finger to soften what he had known. The goats milled about him. There was no one to see what he drew. But the snow saw. Winter's first snow came. It lay a white palm on the charcoaled stone. It drifted over his hut. It eddied at the door as if curious, and wondered whether more drawings were hidden inside. The goatherd's skin prickled. Perhaps he should stay indoors. He didn't. He led the goats. He drew. And the snow came for him.
In those days, the gods walked among us. The goatherd knew her for what she was. How could he not? She was silver-haired, clear icy eyes, faintly blue lips. The air around her seemed to chime. It was the god of snow. Aaron said, "You forgot something." She hadn't. Slowly, she said. The god smiled and showed her pointed, sharp, crystal teeth. "I'm not scared," said Aaron. But how to tell her son the rest? The way the god silently followed the goatherd, so close that his shoulders grew frost. He drew for the snow god, whose frozen diamond tears fell at the sight of his images and rang against the rock. Every morning he looked for her. He began to love the chattering of his teeth. When she appeared, the air sheared and sharpened. It became hard to breathe. Still, he longed for that painful purity. When she was not there, he remembered the goats. He probably smelled like them, was warm and stupid like them. Yet one day she touched him. It was a cold so cold it burned. It locked his jaw. She drew back and tried again. This time, it was all soft hushes, the sort of snow that changes the world by claiming it. A pillowing snow. It feathered down. She layered herself on him. The burning cold came again. He begged for her bite. She left him. It was that or murder him. So he was alone again with his goats and his fire-black sticks and the smudged walls of his mountainside hovel. They became friends, the mother said finally. "Not friends," Aaron said reproachfully. The boy read beyond his age, that much was clear. She frowned but said only, "He didn't see the god again. He saw what most mortals saw. Snowflakes, brilliant in their white geometry. He watched the snow by day. He watched it by night, when he could. The moon was waning. Then came a night when it vanished altogether. The night was as black as snow is white. He could see nothing. I wish I could tell you, Aaron, that he said his prayers as always, remembering each one, but that night he neglected the god of the moon. He woke to the sound of footsteps crunching in the snow outside his hut. He knew it wasn't his god. She moved hissingly, or was silent. But any stranger on this mountain was strange indeed, so he stepped through the door to see. The newcomer was a man, or so it seemed. The goatherd wasn't sure. Suddenly, what he beheld, unless it was seeming itself, the goatherd wasn't sure suddenly what he beheld, unless it was seeming itself. The visitor had black eyes. No, silver. No, yellow. Or was that a glowering orange? Was he shrunken or enormous? And wasn't he, after all, a she? The goatherd blinked, and although he didn't recognize who stood before him, he at least understood what kind of visitor had come to call. You want to be with my sister, said the god. The young man flushed. No, don't be shy, said the god. She wants what you want, and I can make it happen. The gods do not lie, but the goatherd shook his head. Impossible. Mortal, what do you know? You're too far from the realm of the gods down here. You need a bridge to go up into the sky. The air's different there. You would be different up there. More like us. I can build that bridge for you. All you have to do is say yes. Weary, the goatherd said, If I took the bridge, would it kill me? Would I live? The god grinned. You'd live forever. The young man said yes. He would have said yes anyway. He would have chosen death and snow together. But he had been raised to know that you do not enter into an agreement with the gods without asking the right questions. He should have asked more. We'll meet again tonight, the god said, and build a bridge together. Tonight? It seemed terribly far away. I work best at night. You must understand it wasn't the young man that was a fool. It wasn't that the young man was a fool. He had a lively mind, sensitive to details, and if the conversation had been about any other matter than this lost god, he would have been suspicious. But we don't think too well when we want too much. He forgot that hole in the fabric of his prayers the night before. It didn't occur to him that such a hole might widen and stretch and become large enough for him to fall through. As agreed, he met the strange god that night. Although there was still no moon in the sky, he had no trouble seeing. The god glowed. Although there was still no moon in the sky, he had no trouble seeing. Oops. In some versions of the tale, the god had the youth stripped naked on the frozen mountain. Coyly demanded one kiss and was refused. The god touched the young man's brow. In that last moment, he suddenly understood that he had been bargaining with the moon. He saw that he had wrought his own doom, but there was nothing he could do. He began to grow. His bones screamed, his joints popped. Muscles stretched and tore and disintegrated. He arced into the darkness. The mountains dwindled below. He left his flesh behind. It was as the moon god had promised. He was thrust up into the realm of the gods, but he himself was the bridge. He spanned the night sky.
Bro, yet another instance of needing to leave your skin behind. First, the Salmon Prince, now the moon. The moon! Why these people always be asking for mortals to take off their skin. What? Bro, like, people need their skin though.
Yeah. Yeah.
It is true for the gods as well as mortals that it is impossible to love a bridge. The snow god came, walked the sorry. That freaking line. It is true for the gods as well as mortals that it is impossible to love a bridge. The snow god came, walked the length of him, and wept. Her tears fell and froze. They scattered the sky, piercingly bright. They fell in patterns, in the images he had drawn for her. That is why we see constellations. The stars show his memories, which became hers. We still see them when we look up into the night, at a black bridge covered with snow. Aaron was quiet. Aaron? Aaron? Dude, yeah, Kingy. Aaron was quiet. His expression was unreadable. She wondered why he had asked for this tale. His eyes seemed older than he was, but his hand younger as he reached to touch her satin sleeve. He played with the fabric, watching it dimple and shine. She realized that she had, after all, forgotten the ball and the waiting carriage. It was time to leave. She kissed him. Mwah.
Will Anira marry the prince?
Aaron asked. She thought that now she understood his interest in the story.
I don't know. She'd go away and live with him.
Yes? Aaron, the sibling gods can be cruel to each other. Is that why you asked for the story of Snow and her brother's sister Moon? Anira teases you. She can be thoughtless, but she loves you. She held you so dearly when you were a baby. Sometimes she refused to give you back to me. His troubled gaze fell. Softly, he said,
I don't want her to go.
She smoothed his hair off his brow and said gentle things, the right things, and would have left then to attend the royal ball with an easier heart. But he reached for his wrist, her wrist. He held it, his hand a soft bracelet.
Amma, the goat herd wasn't bad, was he?
No.
But he was punished.
Lightly, she said. Well, all boys must remember their prayers, mustn't they?
What if I do, but offend a god another way?
Children cannot offend the gods. His eyes were so wide she could see the silvery rims of them clear round. He said,
I was born in Death's year, but I wasn't given to him. What if he's offended?
She suddenly realized the full scope of his fascination with the tale. No, Aaron. The rules are clear. I had the right to name you whenever I liked.
What if I'm his no matter when you named me?
What if you are,
and it means that he holds you in his hand and would let no one harm you. For a moment, he was silent. He muttered, "I'm afraid to die." "You won't." She made her voice cheerful, brisk. Her son felt things too deeply, was tender to the core. It worried her. She shouldn't have told that story. "Aaron, do you want your secret?" He smiled a little. "Yes." She had meant to tell him that the cook's hat had kittens. The cook's cat, excuse me. Hats don't have kittens. Wah. The cook's cat had kittens, but something in his tentative smile caught at her heart, and she leant to whisper in his ear. She said what no mother should say, yet it was the truth. Months later, when a Valerian dagger pressed into her throat, and there was a moment before the final push, she thought of it, and was glad she had spoken. "I love you best," she said. She rested her hand on his warm forehead and said the blessing for dreams. She kissed him one more time and went away.
God. Well, that took a turn at the end. She got stabbed in the throat. Yeah. Dude, that's something, man. I gotta say, I enjoyed this one. I'm always a sucker for a tale within a tale. You know? Whenever it gives context to the story being told, I'm a fan of that situation. One story that I remember well that did that same thing was The Wishing Stones. I forget who that's by. Hang on. Oh yeah, it's freaking right here. By Cara Taylor. Ah. 'Cause yeah, check it out. The old man sat on the porch, his feet perched on the railing, overlooking the grassy meadow. Of course, at this hour, the meadow couldn't be seen from where he sat, not with his old eyes anyway. On a night when the wandering moon was overhead, he could easily pick out the edge of the lake that spilled out of the forest below, pooling into a shallow translucent gem framed by bulrushes and smooth, soft stones. And yeah, behind him, the warm light from the burrow shone out of the foyer's round window. The burrow door creaked open ever so slightly, and the old man's ears, as worn by the years as they were, could just pick out the sound of little, bare halfling feet stepping quietly over the smooth wood of the porch. And then from there, he starts telling the story to his little grandkids, which, man, again, I'm a sucker for it, dude. And this one was quite tender. You know, it's not just the classic, gather round, kiddos, time for grandpa to tell, like, a nice story. No. This was, a mom about to leave to go to a ball? But was it a ball? Oh, it said months later, okay. But yeah, a mom going to leave for a ball, but leaving her sick son in bed, and having just enough time to tell the sick son a little story. Gosh, and the reason the kid asked for the story was because he's afraid to die. Ah, man. It's got some rather sweet sorrow to it that I wasn't expecting. Some sweet, sweet sorrow. Alright, I'm gonna hydrate real quick. Hit up hydration station. Alright. Nice, and it looks as though we have enough time for another story. So I think next up, I kind of wanted to check out this one. It just seems interesting, and I freaking love the, stop motion figure that's been created here for the artwork. Hero of the 5 points. Oh, this one seemed kind of cool though. It's set in an apocalypse in Colorado. The stranger seemed good as well. The Sirenia don't trust many humans. Rachel is one of them. The story of how Galen met her and how they bonded is both exciting and heartbreaking. It is a novelette though, so we might have to take multiple streams to check out that one. And then here's the Squidward going into paintings one. What do you think, guys? Do you have a preference out of the bunch? We have Hero of the 5 points, Jake and the Other Girl by Emmy Laybourne, The Stranger by Anna Banks, and Do Not Touch by Prudence Shen. I'll give you about 15 seconds to vote. 15, 14, 13, 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Oh man. I don't know what we were last night. What are we playing about? Alright, are we ready for the story?
Seems as though the countdown did come to a close without anybody voting. So, we'll go with the first of the options. Hero of 5 points. Oh, yo. Well, Remy did vote for that one. So, all the more reason, eh? And hey, Remy, thanks for voting. I appreciate that. Red Nose Studio. Huh. Okay. Well, guys, this is Hero of 5 Points by Alan Gratz. And this has got like a steampunk vibe to it, so we're going to want a different ambiance. Ooh, Tinker's Workshop, Age of Steam. Titanic music? What? What about this one? I think I like this one for the opening. Yeah. Alright. So, once again, this is Hero of the 5 Points by Alan Gratz. There were 100 stories told in the streets of 5 Points about the giant gangster Mose. That he was 8 feet tall and 6 feet wide. That his stovepipe hat was actually an upside-down smokestack torn from a Cheyenne locomotive. That his fists were the size of Cherokee hams. His feet so large, it took the leather of 2 whole cows for him to be shod. When Mose was thirsty, it was said, it took a wagon load of beer to sate him. And in the summer months, he carried a 50-gallon keg of ale on his belt instead of a canteen. For sport, Mose would climb to the top of the 7-story tall Imartha Machine Man building and blow airships off course. He could dive off at the Battery and come up at the beach on Staten Island. A trip that in 1853 took the submarine ferries a full 25 minutes to get from Manhattan to, Brooklyn. He simply jumped over the East River. Bro, this guy is a boss. Gangster Mose. This guy's like King Boss levels. Mose had the strength of 10 men, it was believed, which he put to the greatest and most fearsome use in the battles between the Bowery Boys and their rival gangs in the 5 Points. While his compatriots carried brickbats and knives and the occasional ray gun into battle, Mose preferred an airship tether, which he wielded like a club of Hercules. Once, when the Dead Rabbits raided the Bowery to wreck the boys' headquarters, Mose beat them away single-handed. He chased them all the way back to their lairs around Paradise Square, bringing down 2 tenements with his fists. Legend had it, before his rage abated. It was the real Mose that Dalton Dent had been sent to find. And if legends were true, to kill. Dalton stood in a narrow 5 Points alley between a pub and a greengrocer's, watching the Dead Rabbits fight the Bowery Boys with fists and bricks and knives. The Bowery Boys were a gang of young Mohawk men who believed the descendants of the roughly 2 million Yankees left in the Americas after the darkness fell should be clubbed with brickbats and dumped in the choppy waters of Hudson River. And they were happy to start with the Dead Rabbits. Hang on. That one seems a little bit too, ambient, oddly enough. You know, I'm kind of down for this one. For this track. The Rabbits were all Yankees, both black and white, and just as happy to return the Bowery Boys bricks and punches with equal disdain. It had been more than 80 years since all contact was lost with Europe, and the Yankees had joined what would become the United Nations of America. But here in the dismal, impoverished streets of New Rome's slums, old hatreds found new life. "Do you see him, Master Dalton?" Mr. Rivets asked, the Dent family's tick-tock valet, stood behind Dalton, watching the fray. Bro, what is a TikTok valet? What is it? What is a TikTok valet? Do you see him, Master Dalton?
No. Nah, Dalton said with disappointment. This was his first solo mission for the Septemberist Society, and he'd been hoping for some real action. I begin to think this Mose character is nothing but a big, ugly gangster whose tails are taller than he is. The fighting in the streets was vicious and uncontrolled. The battle between the Dead Rabbits and the Bowery Boys had been raging for more than an hour, Dalton noted, and there had not been the first sign of the city's infamous copper alloy TikTok policeman.
I'm dead.
And there had not been the first sign of the city's infamous copper alloy TikTok policeman. The machine men they called coppers. There was, however, another young man about Dalton's age watching the skirmish from the shadows across the street. There, the Yankees across the way, Dalton said. Do you see him? The man looked as out of place as Dalton felt. He was clean-shaven, with neatly cut and combed hair as black as his suit, which he accentuated with a silver watch chain and a stout, silver-tipped cane. In short, he had money, which immediately separated him from the actual denizens of the Five Points and the Bowery. He seemed to be there to watch the battle between the Dead Rabbits and the Bowery Boys, but his eyes had a queer, distant look to them, as though he was looking right through the tenements of Paradise Square, out across the Hudson and into Hackensack territory beyond. Dalton found the man wholly unsettling. Not the kind of gentleman usually to be found walking the streets of New Rome's most violent neighborhood, Mr. Rivets said. Oh, not the kind of gentleman usually to be found walking the streets of New Rome's most violent neighborhood, Mr. Rivets said. Not the kind of gentleman to make it out alive, either, Dalton said. As he spoke, one of the Dead Rabbits noticed the strange man in the black suit and broke away from the fight to attack him. The man in black blinked, his eyes focusing sharply on his assailant, and he raised his cane and pressed it to the dead man's chest, the Dead Rabbit's chest. The gangster jerked and lurched, dropping the knife he carried. The man in black pulled his cane away, and the Dead Rabbit crumpled to the street like a machine man whose main spring had snapped. Dalton saw a flash of crackling blue light at the end of the old man's cane, and then it was gone. Electricity, Dalton said, and he knows enough about it to wield it as a weapon. He should find out who he is. We should find out who he is. The society will want to know.
Indeed, said Mr. Rivets, but I'm afraid we have bigger concerns at present, Master Dalton. Much bigger concerns. Mr. Rivets pointed. The mighty Mose had arrived. Yo, that's right. The Dead Rabbits are in Gangs of New York. That movie was sick. Dalton watched in amazement as Mose strode into battle. He was as big as the story said, if not bigger. Easily 2 feet taller than any of his Bowery Boy mates. He was a hulking monster, his legs too short and his arms too long, and all of him rippling with muscles in places no human being had muscles. His clothes, such as they were an imitation of Bowery Boy fashion. He wore a white shirt that looked like 2 bedsheets sewn together, and blue canvas pants rolled up at the ankles,
and held in place by a pair of thick suspenders that might have begun life as steam engine belts. Besides his clothes and his ape-like shape, monkey? The only thing that marked Mose as even remotely human was the relatively tiny human head perched atop his massive shoulders, upon which he wore not a locomotive smokestack, but a comically small stovepipe hat, much abused. Dalton immediately recognized Mose for what he was, a mangle spawn, the monstrous offspring of some poor, wretched human being, and a mangle-born, one of the ancient, unkillable titans the Septemberist Society was sworn to keep subdued. Mose swung his great muscled arms from side to side as he walked, batting away friend and foe like he was swatting at flies. The brickbats and ray gun blasts scattered throughout the mob now focused entirely on Mose, but to little effect. He roared under the hail of bricks and beams, picking up an overturned steam wagon and hurling it into the crowd. It tumbled end over end, taking out dead rabbits and Bowery boys like bowling pins.
Just the rabbits, you great goose cap! Just the dead rabbits!
Cried a rough voice. Dalton found Moe's handler in the crowd, where Mose dwarfed of other men. Other men dwarfed Mose's handler. Like Mose, he wore an almost comic version of the Bowery Boy uniform. His blue pants, white shirt, blue suspenders, and black stovepipe hat all looked as though they'd come from the children's department at Macy's, an illusion shattered by the stub of a cigar he chomped on.
The lamppost!
The dwarf yelled at Mose.
Use the lamppost, you big addle cove!
Mose snorted like a bull, his tiny head turning this way and that as he tried to make sense of what the little man was telling him. With brickbats and hatches bouncing off him, Mose wrapped his giant arms around a metal lamppost and yanked it up out of the sidewalk. The copper gas pipes inside it hissed as they snapped. Mose roared again and brought the lamppost down like a hammer, pounding a dead rabbit into the cobblestone street.
Sir, Mr. Rivets said, perhaps it's time we took action.
What? Oh, yeah, Dalton said, snapping out of his reverie.
It was easy to be mesmerized by the sight of Mose. Dalton watched as a similarly hypnotized dead rabbit was bifurcated by the Maple Spawn's makeshift club. Dalton pulled out his father's old Aether pistol and activated the aggregator. Not that he thought it would do him much good. But this is what he'd trained for, what he'd been raised to do. He was a Septemberist. He would find a way to stop the Manglespawn or die trying. Though he really hoped he didn't die trying. Dalton pushed through the mob toward the monster. A Bowery boy appeared in front of him and slashed him with a knife, cutting his arm. Dalton spun away confused until he remembered he was wearing the costume of the dead rabbits. Black pants with a red stripe down the side, tucked into tall black boots. Red work shirt rolled up at the sleeves, brown leather back brace, and suspenders. His mustache curled up at the ends like a handlebar. He raised his Aether pistol as the Bowery boy came at him again and blasted him in the chest. Across the street, Mose lifted his battered lamppost over the head of Kit Burns, the dead rabbit's leader. Burns had his back turned to the giant. He would never see it coming. Dalton glanced at the gauge on his ray gun. He hadn't collected enough Aether again to stun a regular person, let alone Mose.
Mr. Rivets! The lamppost!
He cried. Metal rang on metal as the tick-tock caught the cast iron pole. The dead rabbit's leader flinched at the sound, diving to the ground behind Mr. Rivets, and Dalton ran for him. Mose grunted in frustration and pressed harder. Mr. Rivets pushed back his clockworks, groaning. For a long moment, the two stood frozen while Dalton knelt to help Kit Burns to his feet.
Don't push! You dumb galoot!
The dwarf yelled at Mose.
Pull! Pull!
Mose yanked the lamppost back like a fishing rod, and Mr. Rivets went flying over his shoulder down Little Water Street. Dalton Dent and Kit Burns stood staring at the sight of the 1,000-pound machine man, sailing through the air like a dirigible, like a dirigible, but not for long. Mose was already bringing the lamppost back down on their heads. What is a dirigible? What is this?
Hang on, guys. Let me look this up. Capable of being steered, guided, or directed.
Dirigible.
Dirigible. Like a dirigible. Oh, or it's an airship.
Dirigible.
Dirigible. Designed for or capable of being directed or steered. That's the adjective, but in this case it's the noun, which is an airship. Huh. Let's make that word of... Let's make that our word of the day, shall we? Dirigible. First part is noun, an airship. Let's make sure we put the pronunciation in there. And then the adjective is right here. There we go. Booyah. Dirigible. Word of the day.
Word of the day. Dirigible. As a noun, it means airship. As an adjective, it means designed for or capable of being directed, controlled, or steered.
We could go even further with this, like, old-timey vibe.
If we go to this mic. Mose grunted in frustration and pressed harder. Mr. Rivets pushed back, his clockworks groaning. For a long moment, the two stood frozen while Dalton knelt to help Kit Burns to his feet.
But I have a feeling that might not be super nice to listen to.
Mose yanked the lamppost back like a fishing rod, and Mr. Rivets went flying over his shoulder down Little Water Street. Dalton Dent and Kit Burns stood staring at the sight of the 1,000-pound machine man sailing through the air like a dirigible. But not for long. Mose was already bringing the lamppost back down on their heads. Dalton raised his aether pistol to shoot Mose, knowing as he did that it was hopeless. Inspiration struck. just before the lamppost did, and Dalton fired the ray gun between the legs of the monster at the still hissing gas pipes, where Mose had pulled the lamppost out of the sidewalk. The ray gun's beam touched off the gas, and a massive explosion knocked both gangs off their feet, shattering the windows of buildings all around Paradise Square. Mose, closest to the blast, went crashing through the wall of the tenement house and disappeared. The ringing in Dalton's ears as he staggered to his feet became the shrill whistle of New Rome's coppers, and the gang scattered. Dalton spun in the street, addled from the explosion, until hands grabbed him and dragged him away from the fleeing rabbits. Dalton stumbled down rickety wooden steps and spilled out into a low-ceilinged, subterranean beer hall with dozens of dead rabbits, fresh from the fight. The room was windowless and smoky, and smelled of spilled beer and piss. Still dazed, Dalton pulled a handkerchief from his pocket to cover his mouth and nose. As his other senses returned, he saw the room was filled with row after row of long wooden tables and benches, upon which the dead rabbits heaved their injured to dress their wounds and ply them with whiskey. Beside the purple and white flag of the United Nations above the bar was a portrait of Yankee Chief Benjamin Franklin, but not, Dalton noticed, a portrait of the Mohawk Chief Joseph Brant, who'd co-founded the United Nations with Franklin all those years ago. This was Sportsman's Hall, Kit Burns's 3-level liquor store, saloon, and subterranean amphitheater, where pugilists, dogs, and rats fought on a nightly basis, sometimes all at once. A pretty Yankee barmaid, in a frayed and faded blue dress, brought beers and bandages to a table beside Dalton, and their eyes met briefly. He smiled almost instinctively, the recently graduated university lady killer in him rising to the surface. Dalton felt a knife point in his side, and the smile dropped from his face.
"Who are you, then?"
a gruff voice asked in his ear. The pretty barmaid hurried away. Dalton reached a hand for his ray gun, but the knife jabbed him again.
"I said, who are you?"
The man leaning over his shoulder had the foulest breath Dalton had ever smelled.
"Dalton Dent," he said, trying to sound more confident than he was.
"Well, I ain't never heard of you,"
the man said.
"Ask Kit Burns," Dalton said. "He knows me." "He knows me." He didn't really, but Dalton had saved the man's life, and Burns knew it. That ought to be enough to establish his credibility and earn a place in the gang, Dalton thought. At least long enough to take care of Mose. Or so he hoped.
"We'll do that then,"
the man said. He guided Dalton across the room, his knife still in Dalton's side, to where Kit Burns sat at the bar.
"This one says you got him down close, Kit."
Burns eyed Dalton appraisingly, and Dalton did the same to the dead rabbit's chief. Burns was cut from the same cloth as the rest of his gang. Always dirty, dark, strong, hungry, thin. But this one had a ratty gold brocade vest on over his shirt and suspenders, and a red feather in the band of his stovepipe hat. Kit Burns had pretensions.
"I'm Dalton Dent, from Philadelphia." That much was true, but the rest of his cover story was not. "I steal tic-tacs. I steal tic-tacs
What? And put 'em in your bungs?
Kit Burns said. He got a hearty laugh from the rest of the rabbits, but Dalton had no idea what a bung was. Had no idea what a Pogo's Binted was.
Your pocket.
Burns said, seeing his confusion. The 5 Points gang had a rich, complicated slang. Dalton knew, and if he was going to survive here, he'd need to pick up on it quickly.
Nah, I reprogrammed their talent cards and disabled the safeties so they'll do anything I tell them, including kill a man, if I want,
Dalton said. That made the rabbits get quiet. Tick-tocks were expensive. Airship expensive. And being able to steal one by reprogramming it was a skill no one else in all of the 5 Points was likely to have.
I don't see you with no bolt bucket now,
Burns said, his voice hard.
I had one. You saw him? We saved your life from that giant.
Kit Burns studied him a moment longer, then made his decree.
I never seen this Sam before in my life. He's the cove. Give him his consolation and take his trunker for a swim. That means rob you, kill you, and dump your body in the Hudson River. Hoo!
Burns explained helpfully. A roar of approval went up from the dead rabbits, and Jack and the other men dragged Dalton toward the door.
Wait! No!
Dalton cried.
Be ashamed to kill him, Kit Burns, after everything you did to save him,
a woman said over the din. The men stopped dragging Dalton to the door, and the rest of the rabbits got quiet. The woman who stepped out into the silence she'd created was like a thing from a nightmare. She was as tall and strong as any man in the bar, and had more of a beard than some. Her hair was filthy and knotted like a rat's nest, and she wore a man's red work shirt, black suspenders, and a ripped old skirt, over a pair of hobnailed black boots. Her fingers ended in long brass claws as fierce as any animal's, and her teeth were sharpened to points. Dalton almost took her for a mangle spawn.
But that's not what...
Dalton started to argue.
Deked it with my own 2 daylights, I did, the woman said. That great beast Mose was dead set on that boy there, ready to quash him. When Kit Burns shifted the boy and clemmed his knicker in the old pugger's side. She mimicked jabbing a knife into Mose, a wild look in her eyes. The picaroon dragged him along, Kit's frumper carving a great claret gash across his gam. Would have taken his whole leg off if the coppers hadn't come and bounced him with a ray cannon.
But that wasn't,
Dalton began to say.
Can't believe you'd go to all the trouble just to hoist the coal and stifle him now,
the woman told Burns. Kit Burns was thinking it over. The woman's story, hard as it was for Dalton to follow, had certainly puffed him up. Burns hitched his thumbs in the armholes of his vest and nodded magnanimously.
The dancer can linger,
Burns said.
His bolt bucket, too, if it shows its brass knob. His bolt bucket, too, if it shows its brass knob. Least I can do after saving his life. You smack the black joke and promise to be a dead rabbit till you croak, dancer. Dalton was bewildered. Why did Burns keep calling him a dancer? And what was this black joke he was supposed to smack? You swear allegiance to the gang, Archduke? The ugly woman asked him.
Yeah,
Dalton said. The rabbits cheered as lustily as they had when he'd been condemned to die. That decree apparently rescinded and already forgotten. A dead rabbit put a mug of beer in his hand and plunked him down at a table, and Dalton was officially a member of the gang.
dude, this story is a blast to read so far. I hope you guys are enjoying it. I think the best part is the fact that we've seen both TikToks and poggers within this story. And how could we not love it after that? Right? We probably won't finish this one today, but I'm gonna look forward to finishing it on Thursday.
Now, back into the action. The after-riot party and medical triage hit full swing when a fiddle player and a surgeon were fetched. Dalton was just about to go searching for Mr. Rivets, fearing him lying broken in an alley somewhere in the 5 Points, street urchins disassembling him for scrap metal, when the machine man ticked in through the back door. Mr. Rivets! Mr. Rivets! Dalton called, and the machine man joined him where he sat. Mr. Rivets, what happened to yous? Are yous all right?
Oh, I didn't realize he was a robot.
Let's go for... Let's go for this one. And as much as I do like... Wait, where's... Oh. Hold up. I didn't realize this one had background effects.
Come in.
What about this one? Oh, sir. Well, sir. Well, sir. Yes.
Well, sir. Well, sir. Then we need a different ambiance. Yeah, I'm down with this one. I am dented, but undaunted, Master Dent.
Said Mr. Rivets.
I believe that is the first time I have ever flown without my airship pilot talent card in. It is not an experience I am eager to repeat. I am glad, however, that you survived the fracas, and that our plan to infiltrate the dead rabbit's gang has apparently been successful.
No thanks to us, Dalton said. It was all her. The nightmarish woman who'd spoken for him crossed the room to sit at Dalton's table. Dalton pulled away from her in disgust and fright as she bared her razor-sharp teeth at him. 30 days hath September, she said. Dalton was stunned. He gave the second half of the society secret passphrase automatically. 7 heroes we remember. You're a Septemberist. The woman signaled a barkeep for an ale. "Name's Hellcat Maggie," she told Dalton. "And you're welcome."
Yeah, thanks.
Dalton began, but she cut him off again. "What in Hades did you think you were doing? Showing up Kit Burns like that?"
Showing him up, Dalton said. We saved his life.
Which amounts to the same thing here in the 5 Points. You made him look like a whiffler in front of his gang. You can't never do that. Not and expect to live. Kit Burns is one brickbat away from being knocked off his precious hill, and he knows it. Every gang chief knows it.
"You'd think he'd be grateful," Dalton said.
Hellcat Maggie slammed her brass claws into the wooden table, making Dalton jump. Getting saved by some fancy jack from Philadelphia doesn't help his reputation as a hackem. There's no honor here, no matter what they make you swear. Only ego. Dalton didn't know what a fancy jack from Philadelphia was, but he was pretty sure it wasn't a compliment.
"Well, I'm one of the gang now," he told her.
Maggie huffed. The pretty barmaid Dalton had seen when he'd entered brought Maggie her ale. Dalton tried to give the barmaid another of his patented smiles, but this time she kept her eyes on the floor. Hellcat Maggie caught him trying to chat up the girl and scowled at him.
Why am I a dancer? And what's this black joke? I swore my undying loyalty to it,
Dalton asked when the barmaid was gone. A dancer's a shooting star, a fellow who don't stay in one place too long. You moved from Philadelphia still a young man. You're a dancer. The black joke is the Dead Rabbit's fire engine. All the gangs have one. Love their fire engines more than their girls, they do, Maggie said.
If they all look like you, I can imagine why,
Dalton thought. So, what do you think? Maggie said.
About the fire engine?
No, you muttonhead, about the monster.
Oh, marvelous, Dalton said. Absolutely marvelous. A mangle spawn, to be sure. Not a product of the original mango-born / human pairing, I'd say. It looks too human for that. What do you think, Mr. Rivets?
I concur, Master Dalton.
The machine man said.
4th generation mangle spawn. Perhaps 5th. A descendant of the mangle-born whom Iroquois mythology calls Tosikara, and whom the Greeks and Romans called Prometheus.
The fire-breathing mango-born. The one Hercules set loose when he lost his mind? You think he's chained to the bedrock underneath New Rome? Dalton said excitedly. That's an interesting theory, Mr. Rivets. If that's true, we might.
Hellcat Maggie hissed at him. I didn't send in that report to the society so they'd send me some bookworm and his walking cyclopedia. I want to know how to quash it.
Well, it will take time to study it first, Dalton said.
Maggie slammed her mug down with a thump. If you don't have any answers, I can take care of Mose myself.
Oh, really? Said Dalton. I didn't see you or anyone else taking care of him that day. Who was it who kept him from killing everybody? Oh, wait, that's right. It was me. It was me.
Hellcat Maggie growled, but she didn't argue with him. Who was the little man giving him orders? Dalton asked. Mohawk dwarf named Tinkusu. Hellcat Maggie spat on the floor. Just a dog eating scraps off the Bowery Boys' floor until Mose came along. Any idea why Mose listens to him? 'Cause he's stupid? Or when Mose will return? When he feels like it? When he feels like it? Maggie shrugged. Next big rumpus, I guess. He doesn't always come out. Fights, then disappears for a while. Lays low. That Hellcat Maggie's nothing but a dilapidated, bandy-legged bent, someone across the room said, loud enough that no one in the bar could fail to hear it, least of all Maggie. Maggie knocked her mug to the floor, shattering it as she stood. Come and say that to my Mazard, you maggot-arsed jackanapes!
Dude, what an insult. Hang on, I want to try that again.
Come and say that to my Mazard, you maggot-arsed jackanapes!
Bro. Bro. How we doing on time? Oh man. Freaking heck. Alright, I will make a bookmark for this here little track. And yeah, we'll return to this come next time on the Merry Mitch stream. Or rather, next time on the 3 Addict Network. What do you guys think? I really enjoyed that one. And I gotta say, I certainly enjoyed getting the chance to stretch my old-timey accent. That one's kind of a pleasure to get to do. Thank you for bearing with me when it comes to my voice. It kind of died there for a second, but hey, it came back and was better than ever. So let's see. Unfortunately, let's pause the Everheard track and bring up the outro theme. Hey guys, thanks so much for checking out these 2 stories with me today. I know I had a blast reading them. Gotta say, it was cool to have the more serious tale, told by the mother to her sick child at the start, followed by something a little bit lighter, with the hero of the 5 points. Join me next time and we will continue that story. And remember to take the merriment we found here together today. Let it set you at ease as you go forth with your goings-ons today. And let it carry you into tomorrow. I've been Merry Mitch. And stick around for more of the 3 Addict Network crew. I love you guys bunches. Love yourself first so you might love others next. And I'll see you next time. Till then.